All right, guys, here it is. The ultimate guide to curing acne. I'm going to give you all the secrets, so stay tuned. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. So glad you can join us on this, the 18th day of September in the year 2024. We have a ton of questions to get to. We're going to dive right into them. The first two questions on this show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, I've been taking 20 mg of accutane. Is this a good dose to take, or should I take more? Also, does accutane help remove acne permanently?
All right, I have a lot of good insights on acne because I suffered with it. I didn't, in college and high school, I had acne, but I didn't have like gross acne. Some kids have that like really bad acne vulgaris. I didn't have that. But when I took anabolics, my face didn't get that bad, but I would get my chest and my back would get these like big, like uncomfortable boils, and they just hurt like hell. So I had a really good friend of mine who was a dermatologist, and he suggested accutane. But I will tell you one thing that really helps a lot. Number one, change your pillowcases a lot, especially if you break out on your face and the back of your neck. I would change my pillowcase every day. So I'd have a new pillowcase every day because especially when you're greasy and sweaty as a bodybuilder, especially also when you're really big, you sweat at night. So you got to change those pillowcases. Second thing you need to do is you got to use Dial soap. Dial, just like the regular one, like the white one or the yellow one, or they have the blue flavor, the blue one. But don't get like the moisturizer one. Just get the regular Dial soap. It's antibacterial. And use that on your body. Get like one of those back washers, with the little loofah pad on it, and take 2 showers a day. So you take a shower in the morning, you take a shower before you go to bed. Sometimes you might even want to take one during the middle of the day if you're really disgusting after the gym, but very important. So if you do those 2 things alone, okay, you're going to cut back a lot on the breakouts, okay? Because a lot of it's just due to dirt and sweat. Because what happens is, anabolics make the sebaceous glands secrete more sebum, and bacteria in your skin will use that sebum and basically get into those little pores, and they'll create little infections. That's really essentially what acne is. And then you're squeezing the infection out when you squeeze that white pus out of there. So, and you don't want that. So if you keep your skin very clean, then there's no bacteria to get into the sebaceous glands. Now, I'm a greasy Italian, so the more grease you release, so the more sebum you release, the more likely you are to get breakouts. But it definitely cuts it back when you do those 2 things. If those 2 things don't work, these doctors will give you topical antibiotic creams and shit like that. Anytime you rub a cream onto acne, it makes it worse because you're just clogging the pores more. I don't care what's in the cream. It could be an antibiotic cream. It doesn't work. They don't work. Don't listen to them. Now, there are certain foods that will irritate acne more, like dairy products and sugar. Okay. If you cut back that in your diet, which they already should be cut back, because if you're a bodybuilder, you're not going to be eating a ton of dairy, and you're not going to be eating a ton of sugar. You're going to also notice that you don't break out as much as well. Now, something that I found that was kind of funny, but I don't recommend doing this, is the few times I went out and drank alcohol, okay, during my tenure as a bodybuilder, which wasn't a lot, I always noticed the next day acne was 100 times better because the alcohol gets released through your pores too, and it kind of almost acts as like an antiseptic. So you don't want to do that. Another thing, you can do a little bit, but you don't want to be swabbing your whole body down with alcohol all the time, because what that does is it over dries the pores and over dries the glands, and then it causes them to release more oil in response to that. So you don't want to over dry either. So don't wash your face 25 times a day. Get like a facial cleanser, that's for oily skin, and use that on your face. Do not use soap on your face. That's the one thing you don't want to use, because your face will get so oily, it'll over secrete the more you keep drying it out. Now, if all these things don't work enough and you're still breaking out to the point where it's uncomfortable and it might be hurting you when you're competing, you can go to Accutane. But number one, get it from a doctor. Don't just start prescribing yourself Accutane, because it should be monitored with blood work and everything like that. But, I know some doctors are a pain in the neck with the whole Accutane thing. Usually they start you off at 40 milligrams. This person in the question was saying they're using 20. 20 is not going to do anything. 40 milligrams is the starting dose. And usually for bigger guys and even women, they need to go to 80 milligrams a day. For me, 80 milligrams per day was the sweet spot. Your lips are going to get dry, your butt crack is going to get dry, and it's going to crack, and your eyes will be dry. But all those side effects are reversible once you stop the stuff. But you got to do about 5 months of it, and that's what you don't just take it like when you break out and then stop taking it. It's got to be done continuously, and usually when you first start it, it will make you break out worse for a week or two, and then it starts drying you up and you'll be better. But you don't just stop it once the acne's gone. You have to stay on it for 5 months. And that's why these doctors like to just monitor your blood work. It's funny because they're so worried about Accutane being liver toxic. And, if you drink one beer a day, it's probably way more toxic than the Accutane. So they do make a bigger deal about it than is necessary. But usually the 40 to 80 milligram dosage is key. I knew one girl that they had her on 120 milligrams, which was crazy, I thought, because I've never heard anyone needing to take that much. But her acne wasn't going away. Now, I did it twice, actually. So I did it for 5 months, I stopped it. I was doing well. And then like a year or two later, I started breaking out again, and I did another 4 months of it. It's possible I have to do it twice, because, the anabolics do regenerate the sebaceous glands a little bit. But after that, I was fine. And the only time I'd break out, I'd get like a little pimple here or there. It was pretty much all the big stuff went away. So do you want to have to use Accutane? Last resort. But if you need it, it's good. It does work, but you're going to have to do the right dosage and for the right amount of time. Because if you don't do it long enough, and you don't take enough of it, it's not going to fix it. That's why it's best to do it under a doctor's supervision.
So before we take the next question, again, these first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app, we did want to inform you that our good friends at Titan Medical, they're running a current special right now, Dave. This one on a variety of medical sexual stimulus specials, as well as oral therapies, if you want to tell the fans a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Let me put my glasses on here, and I'm going to read all right, they're going to be doing their Vito enhancers. You get, I guess, Vito Enhancer 55 could be $25 off. All the other libido enhancers, such as PT 141, injectable nasal spray, Trimix, and oxytocin, all on sale. Now, the thing I really liked that caught my eye was they have a combination of sildenafil and tadalafil with testosterone. So that's Viagra or Cialis, and they have that mixed with testosterone. And I asked them how much. It's a very small dose of testosterone. You don't actually even need a prescription for this, because it's small enough, and supposedly it gives you just a little boost very quickly, because it's absorbed very fast of your testosterone level. So if you're like trying to go on a date with a girl and you want to have some fun, this combination is interesting. I've never tried that. I didn't even know that they had testosterone orally, and it's in troch form. So you kind of put it under your tongue and it dissolves. So they have sildenafil with testosterone, tadalafil with testosterone. That's Cialis, sildenafil plain, tadalafil plain, and then they have their combination, which is the Iron Man, which is actually, I like the names, which is Viagra with arginine, which we know is a vasodilator. They have Cupid's Candy, which is Cialis plus oxytocin plus PT141. So that's kind of like, you can't get any more than that. And then you got Wonder Woman's, which is straight Cialis or straight Viagra. I guess that's for the women. And there's no blood work necessary if you want to get the Cialis plus testosterone or the Viagra plus testosterone. I like the Cialis better. It lasts longer, and supposedly it's really good for blood pressure too. So if you have high blood pressure, it will bring your blood pressure down as well. So our friends at Titan Medical Center are offering this. Go to titanmedicalcenter.com. When you contact them, tell them Dave Palumbo, RxMuscle sent you. You will get the discount on all these aphrodisiac combinations. And you know what? If you're not really sure which one you need, talk to them. They're very good. The doctors there and all the people who work there are really nice. They can suggest the best ones, which ones might fit your needs. And like I said, if you mention us, you're going to get a great discount. So thank you, Titan Medical.
So again, we continue with our questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Your take on partial reps, not just at the end of a straight, not just at the end of a straight set, but occasionally as its own set. As an example, the late and great John Meadows used to recommend performing side dumbbell lateral raises with twice the weight, utilizing only the first 30 to 40% range of motion. He said these could really help widen the delts. I guess the question is, could occasionally lessening range of motion but exposing the muscle to heavier weight be beneficial for growth?
I'll tell you that this is my take on it. I don't think partial reps work well for building muscle, but what they do is they get you used to the weight that you're using, a heavier weight. So if you're doing side laterals with, like, say, 30-pound dumbbells, and you really want to go up to 40s, but you just can't do it because it's just too heavy, and you do a couple, maybe a set or two of like some partials at the end of with the 40s, as much as you can actually do it, it kind of gets you used to that weight a little bit, so that when you are ready to move up and you do get strong enough, the transition is a little easier. So I don't think you're actually building any muscle from those partial reps, or nothing significant to write home about, but I think it's getting you used to it. It's like when we would do squats, I remember that 600-pound squat was like, for some reason, it was like a mental barrier for me. I couldn't get past there. And I said, you know what? So I used to take 600 off, walk back with it, and just do like a little partial squat. I knew it wasn't building any muscle, but I was getting used to the weight. And so when it was time, when I finally did get strong enough to do it, it wasn't so intimidating. So to me, that's what partials are more beneficial for. I don't really think, like I said, if you're only doing like this with the weight, you're not building any muscle in your delt. But once again, you're getting used to what it feels like to lift that heavier weight, so that if you put on 2-3 pounds of muscle, and then you come to a workout 2 weeks from that point, you know what the weight feels like already, and it's going to go right up. So I think there is a benefit to partials. I just don't think it's the benefit is to build muscle.
So again, those 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. We now take questions not only from our Facebook page. Again, if you haven't already followed us there, just type in RxMuscle in the search box. On Instagram, official_RxMuscle. But then also, we're now posting this on our YouTube page. So for our YouTube community to be directly involved with the show, we'll take a question from there first. It's funny because I've been in this bodybuilding world now for the better part of just over a decade. And I've always wondered why, and this is what the question is, why are drugs referred to as gear? What is the origin behind the word gear when it applies to drugs?
It's a good question. And I don't really know the real answer. I would have to imagine that it's because, like, you're using tools, okay, to get bigger. So it's part of your gear. It's like you bring your weight belt, your straps, all that stuff. Your bottle of Anadrol to the gym. That's just your gear. And I'm assuming that's what it is. There might be a more apropos explanation to that if we Google it, but that's how I interpret it. It's part of your gym bag full of supplies that you need to go to the gym and do some damage at the gym. But there, like I said, there could be even a more obvious reason for calling it gear, but that's my interpretation of it.
What happened to post-workout supplements? Our supplement companies wanted to make you buy a carb and a protein for post-workout to make more money. There's one of the markets still that has everything you need, and it's been around for 15 years, called Aftershock by Myogenix. Wondering if you're familiar. But that aside, I guess to his point, do you agree that there are less post-workout supplements that are like a singular solution, and is there a reason behind that?
Here's my take on it as a supplement company owner, because people always ask me, there are companies that make pre-workouts, post-workouts, intra-workouts. To me, that's 3 SKUs you have to make. And when you make those 3 SKUs, whoever's making them, whether if I'm the formulator, let's say, I have to decide how much protein, how much carbs, how much fat, how much, this and that ingredient go into it. So I'm basically customizing it for everyone. So it's one size fits all. And not everyone has the same needs. Women need less protein, or maybe they need less carbs versus protein. So if I customize a certain formula, then everyone's got to use that same formula. So what I decided to do with Species was to make my whey isolate protein isolate. I made my high molecular weight carbohydrate Carbolyze. And then I have macadamia nut oil if people want to add oil to slow the absorption. Or if I have an amino acid formula, Amino Evolved, which is a 100% fermented amino acid product. And you could customize whatever you want. If you want to eat 50 grams of protein and 30 grams of carbs pre-workout, and you want to put a tablespoon of macadamia nut oil in there to slow it down a little bit, you can do that. Post-workout, if you want to do 50 grams or 60 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbs, you can do it because you can control each variable. You can make your own. If you want to have an amino acid, a branched chain amino acid drink while you're training, you can use Amino Evolved. If you want a little bit of carbs in there, you put a half a scoop of Carbolyze in it. So you have all the components with Species Nutrition to make the pre, intra, and post, and you can customize it to what you want. If I decide, 50 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs is the breakdown for the post-workout shake, and I'm a woman and I don't want it, I want a lot of protein, but I don't want that many carbs, I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. I can't take carbs out of there because it's pre-mixed. So to me, it's a waste because it only fits one population of people. And if I was going to make it, I would make it for big bodybuilders, obviously. And that would basically reduce everyone else to having to use something else. So I like the fact that you can customize your own. You can buy the 3 tubs or the 2 tubs or whatever, and you can put as many carbs or as much protein as you want into your drinks. And there's no reason for me to make the only reason would be if I made an RTD that was pre-mixed already that you could put into the refrigerator and just pop it open and gulp it down because it's already mixed. That's almost like something that is a convenience to do for people. But the problem with those is they're very expensive to ship because they're heavy, because they have liquid in them. And that always ruins the price points on those things. So what happens is people make kind of like dumbed down versions. They use whey concentrates, they use crappier carb sources, and because they have to, otherwise the stuff is too expensive, they can't make any money. And once again, I would rather offer people the best options, the best quality options to put in their shakes, and just let them customize themselves. Most bodybuilders are not lazy. They will customize their own shakes. No problem. They'll put it in a shaker bottle. They'll add some water when they get to the gym, shake it up and drink it. And so that to me is the best way to do it.
Can you elaborate on Methyl 1 testosterone, M1T? I did 2 cycles of it when I was younger, 20 mg for about 4 weeks in my late teens, and curious if I should expect any health issues from it in my later years. I'm in my late 30s now. I've gotten blood tests a few times since then, and everything has been normal. I just want to know how dangerous and toxic Methyl 1 testosterone is.
I mean, if you use anything for short periods of time, it's not going to cause any permanent damage. I mean, come on, probably drinking a couple of vodka shots is probably worse than that. But if, some people are just obsessive compulsive and they'll use a drug like that every day, all year round. Those are the people who have liver problems, and blood pressure problems and possibly kidney problems because of high blood pressure. So for people doing like a cycle and stuff here and there, there's no long-term, negative effects of this stuff. I think that, it's overhyped a little bit, but granted, I know people that will never go off of it because they have access to it. They'll keep taking it every single day. They like the way they feel on it, and they think that there's no ramifications because it's a pill in a bottle, but there is. So the way you're describing the cycles that you did of it seems very innocuous, and I wouldn't worry about it.
There was a question about I can't remember it to see about it, but it was a question about your approach to diet training in your career in the 90s, and if you approach it the same way with your clients today. And then I was going to add to that, from your career to now as a coach and all the years in between, are there any areas in which you feel like your thoughts have evolved, or certain things that you've learned along the way that you're now able to apply to your coaching?
Yeah, I know. I think I'm way more knowledgeable now than I was when I was competing. I mean, I was kind of fuddling in the dark with insulin. I knew nothing about it. We would take like Humulin R, which was a kind of fast acting insulin, a couple times a day. Didn't know why really. I just know that it worked, but I didn't know about fasting blood sugars. No one tested their blood sugar, so knew nothing about that. So I'm like an insulin expert now compared to that. And same way with fats. I kind of discovered halfway through my career that fats were really necessary to put muscle on, to look good, pre-contest, because if you're too fat depleted, you lose fullness. But I didn't know the difference between like monounsaturated versus polyunsaturated versus saturated fats, how much of each you should take in, what types were the best. Now I have a whole line of supplements that, you can get monounsaturated fats in macadamia oil. You could, you get your essential fatty acids in omega lyes, which is fish oil, and evening primrose oil, which represents the omega 3s and 6s. So, I mean, my comprehension of what fats are and how much you need is infinitely greater. So the people that I'm coaching nowadays are getting way, way, way more information than the people I used to coach when I was competing still. And I did coach people. It's funny because there weren't any official coaches, but people would just come over my house, and I would just do their diets to them, and they'd pose for me, and and I'd be like, all right, change this, change that, and it worked because I knew how to manipulate diets. It's just I didn't have as much quantifiable information, which is better now for you guys out there, because I can explain to you how to, recommend the right amount of fats, protein, carbs, micronutrients, and all that stuff, because I have a better understanding of it myself, and I can teach it to you guys. Whereas before I was kind of going there's a lot of good coaches out there. They go instinctually. They don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. They just, because they know it works and they have experience. It's better if you know why things work, so you can troubleshoot things when they don't work. But there's a lot of guys that are, like I said, are good coaches that get good results. And most of their clients, they have trouble with the people who don't adhere to the rules. And those are the people that usually come to me and say, hey, Dave, no one can get me in shape, or no one, I can't put any muscle on, but what's the problem? And then I can break it down and diagnose it. So the knowledge base I have is important. And that's why I tell everyone out there, never stop learning. The Dave Palumbo Experience app, for instance, we did 2 questions from that. It's a great learning tool. For $29 a month, you get me as your coach in your back pocket. You get all my writings, all my videos. You can ask questions in an open forum where everyone sees everyone's questions and answers. I do a Q&A video every week for the app. You have access to all my protocols, off-season, pre-contest, drug cycles. It's a great, way to keep your knowledge base going, because we're always putting new stuff on there. Likewise, my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course. If you haven't taken it and you're a coach, you're crazy not to. It's only going to enhance your abilities, and it's only going to make you a better coach. If you pick up one thing from the course, you're that much better of a coach. So you have to constantly learn. Doctors have to take continuing education as new stuff comes out. They got to learn it. Same thing with coaching. Don't just rest on your laurels. If you want to be a great coach, constantly learn. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly finding out new things. People send me stuff that I didn't know about, and I read it and I add it to my repertoire if it's necessary. So you have to constantly increase your knowledge base, and I think that's really important. And I've been doing it for the last 30 years, and that's why I've become a better person, more knowledgeable coach, and a more knowledgeable person who can spread better information than I did 20 years ago.
Jody C wants to know what happened to Sam Sulek. This kid was everywhere, and now he's MIA. Now, I saw this question earlier. He's still very active on his YouTube. I mean, he's putting up a video almost just about every day, but he's kind of right. Beyond his own YouTube channel, you really do not hear much of Sam Sulek. I mean, I'm sure he's still very much on the social media circuit. All the kids still talk about him, but I don't know. Do you agree with that, or maybe I'm kind of in the dark on this one?
I think Sam was the flavor of the month, so to speak, if you know what I mean. And he was like trending for a while because for whatever reason, he was doing sensationalistic things, and we were in the bodybuilding realm, we were grabbing these sensationalistic things and talking about them, which made him more popular probably than he would have been. Now he has his followers, his young guys that follow him, that will always follow him. That's not our crowd. That's not the bodybuilding crowd. But the bodybuilders kind of grabbed a hold of him because he was just doing insane things like drinking, all this, crazy shakes and eating milkshakes and eating all this junk food, and and it was nutty enough that we found it humorous, and we wanted to embrace it a little bit. And then of course Fuad hired him, so that was another that he made him more popular as well. And I think that everyone was just waiting for something to happen, so to speak. And nothing happened because he's a kid. He's making his money. He's doing his stuff, and he's going to continue doing it. And he doesn't make money from me or you, Sid. He makes money from 18-year-old kids who buy his stuff and follow what he's doing. And I respect that because you know what? If he can continue and stay motivated to keep doing what he's doing, he'll make a very good living for himself. Maybe one day he'll compete. It's up to him. I think if he competed, we'd probably hear more about him, and people would be talking about it because we'd be critiquing him. I think he's kind of laying low a little bit after he left Fuad's, hostile supplements, and there was good and bad on both sides when that happened, and so he's doing his thing. I sometimes think guys like him who float under the radar will be more successful because I don't think he was handling all the notoriety he was getting because there was a lot of criticism too of him, and I don't think he was really loving it. I think when he just sticks in his realm of what he does, where he has his fans that like everything he does, I think mentally he's probably in a better place. And, and I think it takes the pressure off of him a lot to try to impress our crowd, which is almost impossible, right? Because even I can't do it. There's plenty of haters out there. It could be stressful if you're not used to accepting criticism of yourself. Obviously, I'm older, a little wiser. He's young, and obviously probably things affect him a little bit more. So I think we'll see him come back. I think we're going to see this kid compete at some point, and I think once he does, it'll probably bring him back into the light again.
Take a couple more questions. This one from Ruben Cardenas. The most effective supplement. So he asked for the supplement, but I'll ask for any other techniques, methods that you would offer for muscle cramping.
Well, you got to diagnose what the muscle cramping is being caused by first. Like, in other words, sometimes people don't eat enough sodium in their diet. They restrict salt. They think they can't eat salt. I don't know why, but there are people like that out there. And those people cramp because they just don't have enough sodium in their diet. Usually potassium cramps are very rare unless you got like a virus and were throwing up. The only way you lose potassium is throwing up. So if you were throwing up a lot, you could be potassium depleted. But most cramping is sodium depletion. However, there is a population of people who take clenbuterol who notice they get cramping, and that cramping is due to the clenbuterol. It causes the muscle to contract too hard and a lot of times lock up. And the best way to combat that would be to get some diet tonic water from the supermarket. The reason I say diet tonic water because regular tonic water has sugar in it. There's no reason to be consuming that. Get the diet tonic water, and then what you should do is you should drink about 6 ounces of it when you cramp. And maybe if you, just to prevent the cramps, you can do 6 ounces twice a day. You can mix it with regular diet soda if you want, because tonic water is used for mixed drinks, alcoholic drinks. But if you can mix it with soda, it doesn't taste bad at all. And just drink it down, and you'll notice that the cramps go away. So it's pretty effective. It's the quinine, the methyl quinine in the tonic water that actually inhibits cramping. So, and it's only going to work for clenbuterol cramps, really. If you have electrolyte depletion, you want to fix that. You can't really fix the clenbuterol cramp by taking electrolytes because it's not being caused by an electrolyte imbalance. It's being caused by the clenbuterol itself. So tonic water or check your electrolytes.
Take one more question. This one from was a question about expire or Angelo Salvo. I have a 10-year expire bottle of Tren, but it's the best gear I've ever used. Can I still use it, or would this be dangerous? Does Tren have an expiry date?
Look, the worst thing that could happen is the stuff might not be as potent as it was. I think people put expiration dates just because they have to on things. But to be honest with you, I don't think a lot of these drugs, especially the oil-based drugs or even the pills, I don't think they lose their potency very, quickly. In other words, they might lose very small amounts over long periods of time. So I've known guys that have used like things that were 10 or 15 years expired and they still worked absolutely fine. So even if they lost 1, 2, 3% effectiveness, it's still, you're going to still get a really good response out of it. So yeah, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Like I said, as long as you're not using a bottle that was open 10 years ago and possibly could have bacteria that's been grown, but if it's sealed, and sterile, I don't think there's any problem to use it.
Let me just grab one more question. It was a question about, hold on a second. Let me pull up I had X'd everything out because I figured that would be it, but I did want to get this one. It's from Akshay Pandey. I found 2 people, one with consistently high B12 levels and another with normal B12 levels. Both individuals are vegetarian and do not take any B12 supplements. My questions are, how can one person have high B12 levels while the other has normal levels? Can our body produce this much B12, I guess, naturally? And that third, I came across 2 theories while researching. The first is that blood tests do not provide an accurate estimation of vitamin levels. And the second is that B12 in the blood is not absorbed by the tissue. So my question is, why would the body produce B12 and why would it absorb B12 from supplements if it doesn't absorb the B12 produced by the body?
I don't think the body produces that much B12. I don't even know if it can produce any B12. It might. I don't want to give a wrong answer there, but I know we need to take it in our diet, supplement form. The best form of B12 is methylcobalamin, which is the methylated form of B12, which is what we have in V Mineralize. The methylate is the activated version. You don't want to use the synthetic, cyanocobalamin version. Not good for you. But to answer the question, and there was a lot of questions there, so I don't know if I'm going to get them all answered, but some people process B12 different than others. B12 is one of the only water-soluble vitamins that actually can be stored in the liver for use at a later date. In other words, the body can store up to 6 months of B12 in the liver. And the reason is that it's a very difficult absorption rate for B12 in your body. When B12 hits the stomach, it has to complex with something called intrinsic factor. That intrinsic factor B12 complex now goes through the intestinal tract, and there's a very small spot in the ileum of the small intestine where that complex gets absorbed. If it misses binding to intrinsic factor in the stomach, or if it can't, it passes by that little spot of the ileum of the small intestine and doesn't get absorbed, you don't absorb it. So it's not so easy. And that's why some people who have difficulty absorbing it have to take B12 shots because they don't orally absorb it well. Some people absorb it better than others because some people produce more intrinsic factor. Some people just have a better, healthier colon to absorb it. So that's why some people can eat the same amount of B12 in their diet, and one person will have a super high level, one person will have a super low level. Also, depends on how much you store. If you can methylate B12 real well, then you can store more of it in the liver, so you'll have less of it in the bloodstream. So there are a lot of variables that go into B12 processing. That's why, in my mind, you're much better off taking an oral supplemental form of B12 in the methylated form, methylcobalamin. If you do that, you're never deficient. You can store the methylcobalamin in your liver. It doesn't have to be processed by the body. It just gets absorbed. Much easier route. Now, some people have high B12. They haven't shown that having high B12 in the bloodstream is detrimental at all. So I wouldn't worry about it. But what I can tell you is if you get your DNA tested, like we offer DNA testing at davepalumbo.com versus through this company, DNA Power, and they'll tell you if you can methylate B12. They'll tell you if you can methylate folic acid. And if you don't, if you have no ability to because you have a mutation in that gene, which a lot of people do, myself included, you have to take methylated forms of these vitamins. And so it's important to understand that. And that's why I think in the future, and I think starting now, really, all you guys, if you're really serious about your bodybuilding, you should get your DNA tested and find out what genes you're defective in and what genes you're not, so that you know what the proper supplements are to take. And I'll probably be doing another guru talk about this DNA with Carmen Tuchenik, or she likes to call herself DNA Carmen DNA. What does she call herself?
DNA Diva.
The DNA Diva, right? Thank you, Sid. And we'll be talking more about this because this is a very good subject. It's very apt, especially for this. We talked about learning stuff from 30 years ago. No one tested DNA 30 years ago. We can do that now, and we can determine what vitamins you can and cannot process properly.
And that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now on the channel, all new episodes of the After Hours podcast. And then, of course, Heavy Muscle Radio. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto breaking down the final show for the Mr. Olympia qualification in 2024. Bruno Santos out of Brazil clinching that final spot. So the Mr. Olympia field is all set. A reminder, they got rid of the point system a few years ago, so there are no more wild card entries. So all show winners are in. We are locked and we're ready to go. We will have preview segments throughout the course of the next 2.5 weeks, leading into the Olympia, leading into what should be a very fun and exciting 60th year anniversary weekend of the Olympia. Dave will be there. I'll be there. Chris Aceto will be there. And you never know who we're going to have there. I believe John Romano is going to be there as well. So we'll have a lot of on-site coverage, wrap-up segments, press conference, finals, prejudging, the whole bit. You know what we do when we get to Olympia weekend. Subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our content over the next few weeks leading into Olympia. And of course, all our content on Olympia weekend. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.